Hi, it is Thursday, May 16th, 2019, and this is the Pro and Con Show with your host, Michael James Ott, and we are live as we are, or we try to be every single day at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. Pacific. And the intent of the show is to try to talk about the issues of the day as reported by the various news outlets and try to separate the facts and get the bias out and hopefully talk about things in a way that allow us to have more reasoned and reasonable conversations about the issues that face us as a nation. Let's try to do a better job about being good neighbors and good citizens of this country. And I will say this multiple times. I've said it in past shows. Say it again in future shows. Strongly advising, strongly hoping, encouraging people to be more involved, to think about the issues more, to delve into them more, to get away from reading bumper stickers. There's no way that the truth is too complex, way too complex to sit on a bumper sticker somewhere. So there's a lot to these issues. They're fairly complex. And, it's up to us. If we want to be good citizens, if we want to have good laws and that make sense to us, good policy, then it's up to us. We have to participate. We have to understand. We have to open our hearts and minds to the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the for and against. And so, by the way, if you're watching this, want to make a comment, or if you want to just simply say where you're watching from, Chicago, Illinois, or Dallas, Texas, or Los Angeles, or Bora Bora, wherever it is. Please type in a comment here. We had a few technical issues with Facebook Live in some of the earliest shows, but that seems to have ironed itself out now, and things seem to be working fairly well. So if you happen to make a comment and during the show in the next 10 or 15 minutes, and I see it, I'll try to react to it live. All right. So, as if you watched any of the previous shows, we try to look at 5 different websites that range from like some left or liberal bias through kind of unbiased to right or conservative bias. And so I'm going to lead off with kind of the unbiased view at this point, or the website with that usually offers more of an unbiased view. And that is NPR, National Public Radio. They have a website. They do stories, of course, on air, but they also put the stories here in the written word on their website. And so their lead, and I'll show you. I mean, I encourage you to look it up yourself, but there it is. In the interest of full disclosure, their lead is Trump outlines merit-based immigration plan, still far from becoming law. And then the under headline says, President Trump's proposal would keep legal immigration levels the same, but dramatically change who would be let in. It does not address the estimated 11 million people in the U.S. illegally. Okay. So, as I've mentioned to you many times in the past, the news sources, depending on their leanings, then they will inject. So this is a good, I view it as a good, reasoned headline. Okay, it's just saying this is what he said. He's outlined this thing, and if you read the article, you'll find out that there's not been any meetings with any members of the legislature and stuff like that. He's just proposing this immigration plan, and then the other thing you'll find out in NPR is it just says this is what he's doing. He's just proposing this and this and this and this and this, and there's not a lot of that jargon in the headlines that would cause or try to incite emotion or discontent or whatever. Okay. So that's the big headline. So immigration. And so in the Huffington Post, so we'll jump all the way left here, Trump's new immigration plan dead on arrival. Notice the headline? See, there you go. Trump unveils a new immigration plan that is going nowhere. Okay, see, there you go. So the Huffington Post has a tendency to, lean left, and they're showing that, and they're encouraging that and reinforcing that with the headlines on this story. And now we'll jump to the other end of the spectrum to Breitbart. And it shows Mr. Trump at the podium, and it says, "We discriminate against brilliance. We're proposing an immigration plan that puts jobs, wages, and safety of American workers first." And then let's go to Fox next. So Fox has their main story is about the Democrats and who's leading the polling in the latest Democrat polling. Of course, the election's in November of 2020, so still a year and a half away. But okay, that makes news, and polls are polls. Okay, but there is let's see here a little bit further down in this, and they actually have. They actually have this Trump immigration plan is fairly far down on their front page. It kind of surprises me that it's down there, but it says Trump unveils plan to transform, it's in quotation marks, America's immigration system. So that's from the Fox News on that. And then we have CNN has just a tiny, tiny headline in the center of their front page on their website, and it says, Trump unveils new, in parentheses, likely doomed immigration plan. Okay, so why is it likely doomed? Well, so the first thing is he's done nothing to at least talk to various people in the legislature about this. So he's just offering this, and okay, I mean, it's America, it's free speech. He can do that if he wants, but one of the things when you're president of the United States, in some ways you do have a significant amount of power. You're the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but even then, you're only allowed to do certain things, and Congress, for example, has to declare war. And so you can do some things via executive order, but they normally don't last, and they get challenged in the courts and that kind of thing. So the real thing about being president is you have to lead. And what does that mean? Well, you don't go out there and bully and bash people that don't initially agree with what you want to do. What you do is you try to convince them using logic and reason and data and a fair and reasoned approach to communication, and then you get feedback from them, and just because you have ideas doesn't make them all great. Other people have great ideas too, so you try to integrate some of those great ideas from somebody else. And Mr. Trump just doesn't do this. He has executed a bunch of executive orders, and he did because there's a strong, and this is factual as far as I can tell, there's a strong business component to the Republican Party, where there are lots of major donations and stuff to that party, that this tax thing to go through and reduce the taxes in a big portion or proportion on the richer people in this country, and amazingly enough, increase the national debt. This is done not by leadership, but by, well, in that particular case, they got it through because they had the results and they had the seats in the various houses of Congress. But let's go back to immigration. And so, what is a reasoned and fair thing in regard to immigration? Well, so I do give him credit for at least he's made a proposal with more than one point. And normally they're just a BB or a rifle shot kind of thing. Well, let's close the southern border, or let's build a wall, or let's shut down immigration, family immigration, so-called chain immigration, and so on. And so at least this time it's a more comprehensive list. It's, here's all the things, and still though, no significant basis behind it. Why these choices? What's the benefit of these choices, other than to say something which is highly inflammatory and frankly totally untrue? And so Mr. Trump himself, as part of his speech, said the Dems just want to open our borders and invite all the criminals in, and lose all the jobs for Americans. You'll never find it, any Democrats that are going to say that, nor are they thinking that. They just have a different view on, whether poor people should come into this country relatively freely or not, and there's different views on why that is a positive or a negative. Quite frankly, I don't know, based on the information that I've seen over the last handful of years, that it makes too much difference in the grand scheme of things. There's 340 million people here, and we've already got 11 million illegal people here. They're already here. It's already integrated into the system. Unemployment's down at 3.9% or 4% or something. Now, a lot of the jobs aren't that great, but still, the economy is doing fairly well, even with 11 million illegal people in here. So another 100,000, another 150,000. I don't know that incrementally it makes that much difference, but the main thing for me, and I'll say this over and over and over and over and over again, we need to stand back and look at these issues in a more holistic way. There's a bunch of people trying to come from Honduras. So why? What are the true facts behind those people? And what can we do? Can we do something to address it in Honduras so these people aren't trying to come to the U.S., for example? That's one example. No one's talking about that. They're just like, build a wall at the border. And then the other thing is, like I'm saying, there's this bullet point that, they're costing Americans jobs and depressing wages or something. Well, what's the data behind that? Again, 340 million Americans and 100,000 people coming in. It's a tiny, 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 tiny percent. And I definitely, I know for a fact personally, based on other information, that it's not immigrants that are causing wages to struggle. It's one, it's our definition of success, which leads corporate America to put customers first, which they should, but then shareholders second, which they shouldn't. It should be the employees of the firm should be the second priority of every company. But that's because our definition of success is screwed up, and we've got to fix that. You, I, all of us have to fix our definition of success. But then the other then technology. So automation is slowly but surely taking jobs, and because the automation computers are getting smarter, faster, quicker, they're taking better and better jobs away. And so this is a significant issue, and it far outweighs maybe an extra 100,000 people coming through the border kind of thing. It's a much, much, much bigger issue. So let's see here. So what I wanted to say about immigration, finishing the thought on immigration, is we should step back and do a more holistic thing and talk about who's trying to get in. In this day of having a bar of two parties, which we're kind of allowing to run the country for us, which I think is a huge mistake, and why I'm proposing a 28th Amendment that would effectively eliminate the two-party system, because we would all be more directly participating in government, kind of in a mashup of jury duty, where candidates are randomly found and then screened on like a online system, where their biographies and all that are available for voters to review and understand, and then the top people bubbling up from that part would go into an election system, and maybe a first election to get it down to two candidates, and then the best of those two, and all of that in the 28th Amendment to get rid of all the big money, get rid of all the attack ads and all that stuff, and all the puppeteering that goes on, and the liberals and the conservatives. Just get rid of it all. So, on the immigration issue, because we have the two-party system still, there should be a bipartisan panel with experts on the economy and the justice system and so on, and they all give like a comprehensive briefing in front of each other. It could be nationally televised, but doesn't have to be like a major network event, but it could be on C-SPAN or something like this. And then all of that information, pro and con, good and bad, for and against, are brought together and summarized, and you and I can watch whatever portions of that we want, or understand whatever portions of it that you want, and then we have the facts. We have a bigger vision of the true issue, and then we start talking about, okay, well, here's a straw man proposal, somebody's bipartisan or not, and it could even be Mr. Trump's proposal, but it's at least a starting point that you would say, okay, now based on this information, based on what we really know about the criminal activities of immigrants and how much they impact wages and now this is we should do this, and we should limit total immigration to this, and we should work with the government in Honduras to I don't know if there's I'm an American, so I'm going to profess I like many Americans, I'm not sure what's going on in Honduras. It could be a civil war or something. Shame on me. I should know, but I don't. But if there's a civil war or something, that's more problematic. But if it's an economic issue, what could we do to shore up the economy in Honduras so these people wouldn't have to flee to a better life? They go thousands of miles, they walk it, and it's a big risk for them. So it's not a good situation, and I'm sure they're not happy to have to do it. I'm sure that they would much rather live in Honduras under reasonable conditions than try to make the trek to the United States and try to apply for an immigration visa or asylum. Okay, well, that is Thursday, May 16th show. I hope that provoked some thought and would encourage you to talk to your friends and neighbors a little bit about the issues, and maybe start doing a little bit of research yourselves, trying to understand the immigration issue, or maybe try to get hold of even better yet, get hold of your representatives in government and say, I really want to know this issue more holistically. Why aren't you guys, bringing forth experts in these various aspects of this, and getting a good cohesive understanding of exactly what the big picture is here. All right, so until the next show, I hope each and every one of you is healthy, happy, and has a great evening wherever you are. Thanks for watching.